themselves financially. Chapter 6. Klaus Schwab, Elite Capture, and the Great Reset. Klaus Schwab is the founder of the WEF, or the World Economic Forum, which is a very powerful organization of rich and influential people who have come together to use their money and power to push for policies that benefit members and mold society moving forward in the world the way they see fit. Schwab, as publisher of the World Economic Forum's 2010 Global Redesign report, postulates that a global world is best managed by a self-selected coalition of multinational corporations, governments, including through the UN system, and select civil society organizations, CSOs. He argues that governments are no longer the overwhelmingly dominant actors on the world stage, and that the time has come for a new stakeholder paradigm of international governance. The WEF's goals include a public-private UN in which certain specialized agencies would operate under joint state and non-state governance systems. Basically, what all of that means is that the WEF no longer wants countries and leaders to make decisions regarding their population, but that they would prefer and believe, or at least claim to believe, that the world would be better off if the world was governed by a single group of powerful stakeholders, which is basically a rich or powerful member of the group. The WEF meetings are held yearly in Davos, Switzerland, and attract many of the world's leaders and top tech entrepreneurs, or even movie stars like Leonardo DiCaprio. In June of 2020, Klaus Schwab released a book called COVID-19: The Great Reset. The book basically tries to make the point that the world needs to be altered from the way we live today for sustainability, and that the pandemic has offered an opportunity to make these changes that would otherwise not have been possible. Now, on the surface, this seems like a perfectly noble idea, but there are many troubling visions that Klaus Schwab has for our future from his other books, such as The Fourth Industrial Revolution, where Schwab talks about the integration of our physical self and our digital self. Now, this may sound odd to the reader, so let me give you an example of a quote that Pfizer chairman and CEO Albert Bourla said at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in January 2018, so you can try to understand why I say this is troubling. I think it's fascinating what's happening right now. I mean, the FDA approved the first electronic pill, if I can call it like that, so that it is basically biological chip. But it is in the tablet, and once you take the tablet and it dissolves into your stomach, it then sends a signal that you took the tablet. So imagine the applications of that, the compliance, the insurance companies to know that the medicines that patients should take, they do take them. It is fascinating what happens in this field. English is not his first language. This was about a perfect word-for-word translation for what he said. Now we must remember, this is not Joe Blow saying this. This is the Pfizer CEO saying this, and you can find this clip on YouTube to see him say it yourself. The title of the video I watched is Tracking Chip in Pills, Albert Bourla, Pfizer CEO 2. So the reason I mention this quote is because in Klaus Schwab's 2016 book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, he talks very much about the transition of technology and human beings and how we will merge in the future. Schwab says in an interview about the book, it's not just a digital revolution, it's digital, of course physical, it's nanotechnology, but it's also biological. Another quote by Schwab, which can be found with a simple web search, where he says, "The people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again, in how we are used to normal in the old fashion." This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen. The cut which we have now is much too strong in order not to leave traces. This was a comment made at the WEF annual meeting and was made post-COVID-19. This is one of the most powerful people on the planet basically bragging that the way of life you enjoyed pre-COVID is not coming back, and we can see that in action. That's one question you can ask yourself if you are still a non-believer. Ask yourself this question: why are things continuing to get worse and worse? From inflation to new pandemics, including monkeypox, to more lockdowns and masking, to the fall of countries like Sri Lanka, to the uprising of the farmers in the Netherlands. What is going on here? The answer is clear. The WF Great Reset agenda is clearly in place and happening right before our eyes. Elite capture refers to a form of political control in which high-level figures or corporations are captured, or compromised to follow a certain narrative or script that benefits those who have captured them metaphorically. The WF has a program called the Young Leaders Program, which they have using power and influence, installed leaders across the world, including Canada's Justin Trudeau to New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern to France's Emmanuel Macron and many more. You can clearly see these members of the WF Young Leaders Program walking in lockstep with each other, following the same game plan, which shows us that a set plan is being followed. This is one of the ways people are totally caught off guard by this. They cannot comprehend that there is a larger conspiracy going on here involving many world leaders. They do not understand the complexity of so many high-level leaders of countries being involved in this, but the truth is they are, and they've been not only compromised, but many of them feel they will be on the right side of history for doing this. This is a sadistic plot, but in the eyes of the leaders who are involved in this, they may believe that actually they are doing the right thing. Yuval Harari is alleged to be the #1 advisor to Klaus Schwab and the WF, and his speeches are found with a Google search of his name or a YouTube search. His speeches are very intriguing, and it is easy to see how people can be swayed by what he is saying. He talks about how the future is potentially set for the use of artificial intelligence to make a very small amount of people rich while making a huge percentage poor, the same way that Silicon Valley has made a small percentage ultra-rich in San Francisco while not helping a large percentage of people across the planet. His main points are that if we do not take control of the future, that there is potential for this artificial intelligence combined with gene editing to get into the hands of very bad people or regimes who will use it to control and dominate the rest of the world on a scale we have not yet seen. I would advise you to go and find his speeches, as it is important to understanding what is going on now, but basically in some of his speeches he is not wrong. However, these ideas are being used for what looks like a much more sinister game plan. His basic ideas, if I could put them very simply, is that if we don't get on top of this now, someone down the road, a fascist world leader or dictator, will use this technology to enslave and take control of the people. So their basic plan is to get ahead of it and make sure that leading countries are walking together towards taking control of this future inevitable scenario. Yuval Harari also says things like, humans are no longer special creatures with souls, we are now hackable animals. He goes further into this with the advance in gene editing and technology that one country may create a group of super soldiers. With this technology, an example he uses is super soldiers being made using advanced gene editing, which could provide extremely smart super soldiers who are very low on the compassion scale, which means they could do many horrible things without feeling any remorse. Now, I want to make sure the reader knows here he is not wrong about this. This technology exists and will only grow better year after year. The problem is his message is being used to attract leaders and influential people to a bigger plot that is more problematic and dangerous. My point is that although some of these people are in this for sadistic and psychopathic reasons, many who might be decent people are being drawn into this thinking it is the right thing to do. There is an old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think many of the people going along with this Great Reset, Agenda 2030 ideology are thinking that they're doing the right thing, but they do not understand that they are being used as pawns in a greater chess game of total human control that could lead modern society towards something that looks similar to the control China has over its population, with extreme surveillance and tracking that we couldn't even imagine.